So do we have questions for Beth or Chuck or Majora, or comments? I see hands going up in the back.
Yeah, thank you very much. I really was quite inspired by what you were saying, and I believe it as far as green infrastructure being able to save money otherwise, and I think most of my colleagues here would agree. Now, of those savings you achieve, how do we redirect those back into investments in more green infrastructure? My concern is that the probability of more money from either the state level or the federal level or the local level is just not going to be there, at least not for the foreseeable future. But yet you're talking about savings. How do you sustain what we've already built and keep that going?
Which one of you would like to take that first, Beth or Chuck or Majora?
I'm going to chime in, Beth, unless you want to jump in. But, you know, I think what I'm seeing in the country and nationally, internationally, is I believe that more people are getting this message and understanding. And I'm going to give you just one example, which may blow your mind. But we're currently working with the Walton Family Foundation. Yes, those Waltons. And I'm really impressed with the fact that they do get this. They're actually trying to alter, you know, marketplace-driven Walmart's, you know, tire philosophy. I think that they was just said on the, you know, yesterday or the day before. They're the largest private employer in the United States, second to the federal government. They're understanding that to be sustainable going forward requires some fundamental changes. The project we're working on with them right now is a regional greenway in northwest Arkansas. This is a gift to the region. They're matching a Tiger II grant of $15 million with $15 million of their family foundation money. I think that's a fairly extraordinary step in America. And it's them, it's the family that is saying, not just to the regional communities, but to the nation as a whole, that this is a very important sustainable endeavor for the future. To become more multimodal, to address all the issues that we've all addressed today, whether it's economic or whether it's health related or whether it's transportation related, they get it. And when I see that kind of light bulb go on, I believe that we've got a different model happening in this country. I think we're no longer relying on federal, state, local governments to be those leaders. I think that it's a nationwide objective, and that we should be drawing everybody into this discussion, and we should be figuring out this question of investment from a national perspective. Instead of pointing fingers and saying, well, is the federal government going to give me money to do this? Let's figure out how to grow the new businesses of America for the future, as Majora just showed you. So I think it's a complete change in the fundamental way in which we do business in this country, and I'm really excited about it. And I'm excited that we have folks like the Walton Family Foundation that get it and that want to be part of leading us into that new endeavor. She's gone.
She may be. Beth, are you still there, or are you? We might see if she comes back. I do know she had to leave pretty much at 10:30, so we'll see if she comes back. But
just on that,
I'm back.
Oh.
I'm sorry.
Woohoo!
Emergency call from daycare, so I had to take that.
Oh no,
okay.
no.
My response would be simply that we have not had as much success as I would have expected in tight budget times seeing people look for lower cost alternatives. That's surprising. You would think that necessity would be the mother of invention here, but there's been a culture, particularly in infrastructure investment or programs, in doing what people know. And some of what people have gotten used to are rather expensive solutions. So what we're going to be trying to do as we move into a reauthorization is a more performance-based program. That's going to mean having people better analyze their projects, both in terms of the costs and the benefits of them. It's going to mean planning that sets performance targets and watch to see how people do in meeting with them. And it's going to mean competitive grant funds that reward those who do it the best. One problem we have with our current program is whether you get every dime you can out of federal dollars or you do the bare minimum, you get exactly the same amount of funding. And what we've discovered, even with small programs like the Tiger program, you know, our overall program is tens of billions of dollars a year, and Tiger last time was 600 million. So it's a very small portion of our overall program, but it created unbelievable innovation and excitement out of grantees across the country. And looking back, that shouldn't really be surprising because the American spirit is really energized by competition. And that's what seems to bring out the best and the most innovation out of everybody. So that needs to be a component of what we do going forward. And hopefully by there being a little bit of a financial reward for having achieved a lot and made the most improvement, we'll see more efficient usage of the money that people get as part of formula grant programs as well. And at least in our program, because it is trust funded, and we propose that it continue to be going forward, those savings do accrue back to the infrastructure program, and therefore we know will result more similar type of investments.
Majora, did you? No, you're good? Okay.
Hi, my name is Gary Bellin from American Rivers, and I guess it's a bit of a two-part question. The first part directed towards Mr. Fink, and then more broadly for all of you. And when you were talking about the stormwater pond and the fact that you couldn't do much with it because the codes and ordinances didn't allow for it, I was kind of struck. I guess my question is, what can you do, or what were you doing to maybe look at changing that code and ordinance to allow more flexibility? Right. And that leads to the second part of my question is, in the work that we're doing on the ground, we've seen a great opportunity to really affect the local codes and ordinances, which are actually incredibly local but incredibly important in moving these sort of local initiatives forward. And where have you seen the best ways and some of the best successes of working with that local policy as a support and foundation for the actual project work that's getting accomplished?
Okay. Yeah. That's exactly the position that we took with the Raleigh Comprehensive Plan, was that we felt like we really had to undo 40 to 50 years of codes that were leading us down the wrong direction. We definitely talked about using performance-based measures. I remember I had a meeting with the stormwater people in Raleigh-Wake County, and I really wanted to see them move away from the sedimentation, erosion control, and stormwater management checklists that are used presently to approve all development projects within the county, and instead just move to a very simple performance measure. How much rainwater fell on this site when it was in a natural state, and that's your control point. So release it into the design community, foster the innovation and the entrepreneurial spirit that Beth just talked about, and let's just have that as our exit metric, rather than provide a set of checklists which then create this infrastructure, which, by the way, we know does not work. I mean, we can model it. We know silt fences, stormwater detention facilities, none of this stuff works. We know it. So we do have to move away from it. The best example that I can offer you is that's exactly what we're trying to do with the Raleigh Comprehensive Plan, is to begin to move away from it. But we are getting huge institutional pushback from every aspect of the way in which this is layered, from the local regulators who are quite honestly afraid to move away from it because they don't have any experience with it. All the way up through the system to the way it's structured through I'll just pick on North Carolina Department of Environment and Natural Resources, all the way up. So we've got to build some really good models, some case studies, where the performance measures are being used on stormwater. And there aren't a lot of them out there right now. It's going to take some time, but this is the beginning of it.
Any other examples, either Beth or Majora, that you want to add? or we feel pretty good. You're pretty comprehensive in your answer, Chuck.
Okay. It's a start.
It's a start.
I'm over in the corner here. My name's Kathy Wolf. I'm with the University of Washington, and I do research on the human dimensions of urban forestry and urban greening. And my question is primarily to Beth, but this is such a great panel to perhaps weigh in. The sustainable communities, the 6 elements or principles, don't explicitly include green infrastructure, urban forestry, urban greening, whatever term might be suitable for this. And I know when one looks at the imagery of the programs on sustainable communities, trees and plants are just a part of all of the diagrams and pictures that are used. But there's some concern that without institutionalizing and formally acknowledging green in this really important and innovative national program, that there may not be the attention to greening that it deserves. So I wonder what those of you on the panel might feel about that issue, about that dialogue that seems to be happening as a part of sustainable communities.
I think it's a great question, and a lot of the fault is mine for not having read the principles completely. I abbreviated them to some extent, but actually greening is present in many of them in terms of preserving open space, in terms of using natural systems as opposed to necessarily built systems for various solutions, and in terms of protecting people's access to green space. It's an absolutely essential part. One thing is, you will notice that the principles are written in a way that is very generalized. For example, we talk about providing transportation choice. We do not talk about providing access to convenient driving, buses, trains, streetcars, walking, biking. We try to avoid the big lists. So sometimes people feel that that means that they are left out, but we are hoping that by the investments we've made with the discretionary grant programs we've been given, that we have demonstrated that we expect to see all of these issues woven together. If you look at HUD Sustainable Communities Grant or the joint grant we did in terms of transportation planning and land use planning between HUD and UT, or our Tiger grants, you will see that the people that did the best were those that understood how to bring all of these areas together, how to support the built part while protecting the natural environment, how to build bike-ped infrastructure, not just by laying down a strip of sidewalk, but building a wide sidewalk, greenery around it, and places to sit and places to walk to. And we think that best way to incentivize that sort of building and coordination is not necessarily by getting every aspect of it captured in our principles, but by showing people that they're the ones who win our funding when we get discretion on them. And hopefully going forward, we'll have discretionary grant opportunities to reward them out. One of the things that I've noticed is even just after 2 rounds of Tiger, just between 1 and 2, the changes in the grants, the increased focus on that coordination, more innovation, more coordination between agencies, and more collaboration between various types of funders is an example of how just 1 grant of funding can really get people to understand what it is we're trying to do. We did multiple webinars and outreach sessions and instructions and answer. That was nowhere near as effective as just giving to the highest achiever. And so I think that in my program at least, one of the things we have to do is teach that style of interaction where we show people what we're looking for by example rather than just trying to list it out. But the point is absolutely correct. We cannot do this if we're simply going to pave over everything. You do not create a strong, livable, attractive gathering place in the center of town on Main Street or, even in an urban area if there's no greenery whatsoever.
Okay. We have time for one more question.
I guess I'm the lucky one. I'm here from Texas, and I would like to thank Beth for the leadership that is being shown at the DOT, because I'm afraid that without it, we wouldn't be making very much progress. But we need a little bit more help. We've just gone through of course, a series of tough decisions regarding the funding for transportation projects, and I'm afraid to say that the alternative transportation modes are losing. And part of the problem is the way that we figure our cost benefits, especially in relation to CMAQ funding. And I'm wondering if the folks in Washington or any of the other communities that are represented here have some good guidance for us so that we can start to really capture the true and broadest sense of cost benefit, and then compare our alternative transportation modes to traditional highway construction in a fair and comprehensive way?
Well, that's a fantastic question, and that really gets at the heart of everything that we're trying to do. One thing is, this sort of shift does not happen overnight. We are very good at costing out and understanding the benefits of various investments on safety and on bridge sufficiency. These are the things we do the best. State of good repair in general is okay, but we are not as good on issues of pavement as we are on bridges. And now we are going to be pushing to move into an era where we are better at analyzing the costs and benefits of these investments in many other ways, including in terms of household transportation costs, in terms of overall infrastructure costs, and whether or not a transportation investment might necessitate additional dollars in other infrastructure programs. And this is going to be an emerging field. One of the things, again, that we like about the competitive grant programs is we learn from the grantees. Instead of us just sitting in DC and making up a list of performance standards, we learn from what communities across the nation are doing to quantify benefits and outcomes. And it has been an extraordinary opportunity for us to see what's working. Salt Lake City, I've mentioned a couple of times, in Denver, Portland, Charlotte, Dallas, they've really been doing this for a while, and they're teaching us some great lessons. We will then have to translate this into better guidance to communities, and this might be a situation where Dallas does a good job at teaching the state of Texas and its sister cities across the state. I think this will be an emerging field. We're going to attempt to do this in a way that is very collaborative and learns from the successes across the country rather than just a federal dictate for the performance standards that you shall use. But we really are going to move in that direction. If you look at our proposal in the budget, there are many, many areas that we do this in. We're not trying to do it in just one place. We're trying to do it in terms of requiring a good cost-benefit analysis, which we are also providing training people on how to do. In terms of performance-based planning, where you'll have to set goals for yourself in all the priority areas, not just in the traditional areas, which includes livability, environmental sustainability, and safety, which will include competitive grants, project-by-project competitive grants, but also institutionalized changes for transportation leadership awards. A state that adopts a real asset management program and implements it will have ramifications for decades to come, and there should be some benefit to that. Those are the sorts of strong changes we're looking at seeing in the Transportation Leadership Awards that we think will pay off for a while. So hopefully it's something we can put together on to convince folks to go along with our vision on reauthorization, giving us an entire toolbox of tools to help communities and states figure out how to do this well.